Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Now we have behind me today a 1998 Peugeot Boxer van. This is for sale, so we need to do a few bits to it, and it's also a camper van. So that's why he's kind of wants to do a few bits to it. To give you an idea, if this was just a normal van, it's worth maybe 600–700 euros in and around there. But because it's a camper van, it's worth about $6 grand. Camper vans here just hold serious value. Camper vans here just hold some serious values. I know in America, I think you call them Winnebagos, and they are huge. Scanner Dan has got one that's 30–40 foot long or something. But over here, you would need an Arctic license, which is a heavy goods vehicle license, to drive one of them. You just can't drive one of them on a normal license. Well, you can drive this on a normal license. But anyway, let's crack on with it. So we have a couple of little niggly things. The horn's not working and the Speedo isn't working, and it's kind of stopping it being sold. So I think there's a few more problems, but that's kind of what he wants us to get done. So we're going to look at the Speedo and we're going to look at why the horn's not working. What I have quickly done first is I've tested the fuses, because there's no point me doing a video and it's just a fuse, because it would just be pointless. So I've tested the fuses. If something isn't working in your vehicle, always good thing to check the fuses first. It's amazing how many times I've gone off doing things, putting machines on and doing stuff, and it turns out to be a fuse. Always check the fuse first. It's the first thing to do. Check the fuse. All the fuses are fine, so it's not a problem. It's not a fuse problem with the clocks, even though everything else is working. Normally on this type, there's only maybe one fuse and it controls the whole clocks, but we've only got one thing that's not working, and the horn isn't working. So we're gonna see what it is. Right, you can just see down there, there's the horn. And when I turn the ignition on and actually press the horn, as you can see, nothing works. So, and because I haven't got anyone here, I really need someone to press this down so I can see if we've got power coming to the horn itself. So I'm gonna have to wedge this somehow. And that's what $6 grand gets you. Anyway, what I've done is I've got a socket and some tape, and I've actually pushed down on the horn, so that's going to keep the horn fully pressed for me, and then I can do some tests to make sure we're getting voltage at the horn. So what I'm going to use, I've shown this on a few of my videos, this is just an electrical tester, and it will light up when we get voltage. So as you can see, it lights up and it should make a noise. Sometimes the buzzer doesn't, sometimes it does, but it lights up anyway. So I'm just going to go down to that connection there. You can see there's a red and a blue connection. Looks like someone has already been here before, because they're not the right connections. What's that down there? I've just seen something. Oh, what's we got here? Right, now they look, oh, can you see? They look like the right connections to me. They've got a boot over the end of it, which slots over the end of the horn. So what, I wonder what's been going off here. Oh, I was hoping it's just going to be a simple horn, not a new horn. Oh, the plot thickens. So I'm going to try and get my tester, see if I can do it when you're actually watching. I'm just going to put my tester on here. That should now be lighting up. And it's not. And it's not. Okie dokie. Well, let's get this up in the air and see exactly what's going on. So from all these dodgy wires I can see, I think this is the horn. I think they've disconnected this part, because that's the wires we did see, and they've wired in this switch. This happens a lot over here, and I don't understand why, because for the time it's taken to do all that, it'd just be easier to fix whatever's wrong inside here. Or maybe it's a broken wire or something. I don't know. I don't understand, because for you to try and reach this horn quickly, if someone pulls out in front of you or something, you know, for you to reach this and press this quickly enough, you're not going to be able to do it. Well, at least when it's here, it's a lot safer. But I know this still passes the test. As long as you've got a horn, it still passes the test, which it's just wrong in my eyes. But anyway, we're not going to be able to, or we're not going to get paid for doing this, in the sense of he just wants the horn working. So we're going to have to work off this. Let's just see. Oh great, there's just wires. You can't see, there's just no room. There's connections upon connections, and just, it is an absolute bodge. Right, I'm going to have to look more closely down at the switch, or down at the horn, and see if it's just a loose connection or something. I need to now wedge this down somehow, so maybe more tape to keep that pressed down. Before I go back underneath to see what dodgy wiring is happening, we've got some really dodgy wiring happening up here. I don't know if you can see, but down there on that connection there, yeah, you can just see it. That is the live connection, and it is just open. There's no tape on that, no heat shrink, nothing. And as you can see down here, we've got all metal parts where that could just earth off. I cannot see any fuse for this at all. There is no inline fuse at all. It just, I'm not sure yet, maybe it's underneath, but I can't see an inline fuse here. It is just really dodgy. I just don't understand what some people do sometimes. So I'm going to look underneath now and see exactly what the story is. I'm going to have to in the customer and see what he wants me to do. But this is dodgy. Well, that's not factory, is it? That looks like a guy called Bob has done that. I don't know why I said Bob. Just first name come to my face. Anyway, just resting. Look at the way that is resting. I mean, seriously. Yeah, just workmanship at its finest. Look at that. I don't want to know how to wire in anything. Just take a picture of this screen, and that's how you do it. You'll go far in life if you do it that way. Just look at that, how that's been lovely placed. Cable tied, not even tightly cable tied, and just flapping around in the breeze. Just, can you see that? Oh, let me get that in a bit more. I can't. Oh, there we go. Look, you just see there now. Don't know how they've wired this in yet. We have another wire you can't see going up there somewhere. I'm going to, where are we? Going up there somewhere. Let's put this back down and see where that other wire goes to. Right, the black wire, which you can just see there on top, is coming up. You can just see it there beside the fuel filter. It's coming up inside the dash somewhere. So I've taken out the fuse box thinking they might have put it underneath the fuse box to at least have fused it somewhere, but I just cannot see it. They've obviously tied into a wire somewhere underneath the dash, but you just cannot see it. I know he just doesn't want me to go this far into it, so I'm just gonna see if I can get it working. Tell him how bad it is and just let him make up his own mind. That's if the horn is obviously working. The horn might be broken, but it is just bodged every way possible. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take them two connections off, them two spade connections off, and I'm going to clean them and put them back together and make sure nothing is earthing itself out, because what happens is they are going to get dirty because they're free to the air, and not only that, they do come loose. The little connections come loose. I'm just going to pair pliers, close the connections, clean them, put it all back and see what happens, and then leave it up to the customer. Right, what I did is I just pulled this wire through so you could actually see, hopefully you can see the end, how much the end actually opens out. You can fit this screwdriver in there so the end's open to it. But not only that, look at this. No heat shrink, no nothing. That's just a bare wire, and right next to it, this is the main power wire, right next to it we have a body, and you know, it can just touch off that and earth at any time it wants. I just don't understand why people do this. So all I'm going to do is, like the other one, I'm just going to clean it and then very gently just squeeze down that connection a little bit, squeeze that connection down too, and that's it. That's going to now fit a hell of a lot tighter. It's not great, but like I said, he is selling this. I don't know if he's going to want me to redo all this. The time it takes to do all this, you would have been quicker fixing it properly. Take off the button on the steering wheel and see what happens. Is there an open? Is there a short? You know, we'll just see what happens. Well, what's happened inside here, rather than trying to do all this crap. So I'm going to do all that with all the connections. Do something with the connections inside the dash, because they're just live as well. They're open to the world. Yes, if you did have some sort of like power probe, something, you could just put 12 volts directly to the horn. to see, but we've got other problems here as well as that, so I'm just going to see if this works. Not, then I'll put 12 volts to the horn, see if the horn's working. If the horn is working, we have a problem with the wiring somewhere. If the horn does work, well then I'm just going to tell the customer, look, you've still got other problems. So once I get that back, clean all the connections up and we'll go from there. Right, so I've cleaned all the connections. This is the moment of truth. If it works, it's still dodgy, but what can you do? So fingers crossed. Da, 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 da. Ha ha! Well, I say it works, it doesn't really work. It sounds really bad, but it's a horn, so I'll have to tell him it's not great. I don't think he's going to do anything with it because, like I said, this is for sale, but all I can do is tell him. But it's working now, regardless whether, even if it was safe, I still think it's completely unsafe, because when someone pulls in front of you, you know, a cyclist, someone walks on the road, anything, you always go for the horn on the steering wheel because that's what everyone's used to. You're not going to have time to move your hand down here and press this button. You just will not have the time. It's so dangerous being there. It should be up here. Take this off and whatever's wrong with this, but that's the way they decided to do it. But anyway, I'm gonna now shove all this back, put all the retaining clips back and get everything, put the fuse box back, and then we can get to looking at why the Speedo isn't working. Right, so what I want to do now is, you can see right in the middle of the screen that cable there. We're lucky on this one that it's actually cable driven clock, not fly-by-wire, which makes our life a bit easier. Now, so this one here, where my hand is, I'll get the torch in a better place in a second, that's our guy. And when we look here, you can just see the cable going in to the side of the differential there. There we go, that's better, look. Now, so we could have a few problems now. We could have a problem with the cable, we could have a problem with the way it goes into the gearbox, or we could have a problem with the actual clocks itself. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take off that big nut. It looks maybe like a 24mm, maybe a bit bigger, and we're going to see what happens after that. Right, so all I've done is I've put it on the end of the drill, as you can see, and then I'm just going to get the Speedo cable and I'm going to spin it just like that. But I obviously can't see if the Speedo is jumping or moving, so I'm going to try and set the camera up. I'm going to try, and then I'll spin it. You guys can tell me if it moves. If it moves, we know we've got a problem in here somewhere, or from the actual, we know we've got a problem at the gearbox end. If it doesn't spin, we've either got a bad cable or clock, or both. Right, hopefully this is going to stay in position for us to do this. So you're going to have to tell me if it's going to work. Now, what happened? Tell me. Is someone going to tell me? Right, we now know that the cable is okay, and also that the clock is okay, because it worked on the drill. So there can't be anything really broken. And this gear here looks absolutely fine. So there's a little kind of worm gear in here, and I don't know if maybe some of the teeth is maybe broken off that, and it's not allowing this to spin, because that's all that it can be. So obviously I'm not going to be able to get a camera in there, because you can see it's right in there and there's no way we're able to fit a camera in. But what we can fit in is a bore scope. So I'm going to put a bore scope in there, I'll film it. Right, hopefully now you can see that gear I'm on about. That's the gear, the little worm gear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the tyre. We're going to see if there's any damage on there, because if there isn't, oh, we've moved. Now, there we go. That's a good shot. So let's see if there is any damage on there. And the answer is no. There's no damage. So why isn't this working? This This is unusual. Right, the plot thickens. So I wonder what's going on. I mean, we've tested the cable and the Speedo actually works with the drill. So I wonder what the hell is going on here. I can't see any damage on that. There's no teeth missing. It all looks good. Right. Maybe it was fitted wrong. I don't know. I'm going to put it back together and I'm going to see what happens. The plot thickens. Right, I think I know what might have happened with this. I can't see any damage done to anything. The Speedo works. When I put the rod back in, I spun the wheel, it moved around. Could have been fitted wrong, but I doubt it. But it was loose. I don't know if you remember when I was actually, I did say it was loose. Too loose, really. Essentially what happens inside the actual cable, there's like a metal rod, a flexible rod, and at the end of the rod there's like a split in it, like a spanner almost, and the thing that sticks out the gearbox fits into the slit and they essentially spin together. The gearbox one spins. Right, not sure where I left off, I got distracted, but essentially I don't think there's anything wrong with this system. I think someone's had this off for whatever reason and they didn't put it together right. Now, I don't know because I haven't tried it yet, but this is what I think because I cannot see anything wrong with it. So inside that tube, you have a metal piece of rope essentially, which is flexible. And at the end of it, it's kind of like this. And then the bit sticking out the gearbox slots into it. And the gearbox spins, and as the gearbox one spins, it spins the cable, which then moves the Speedo up to whatever speed you're doing. It really is as simple as that. It's a mechanical rather than a, you know, fly-by-wire. And there's only a few things that can go wrong. We tested the wire to the clocks, and it spun up. So we know that's fine. We know that's working. So it can only be something wrong with the gearbox down. We've tested the little wheel, that looked fine. We put the bore scope inside the gearbox, we could see the worm, it all looks fine. But what can happen is that the metal kind of rope can move internally a little bit inside the plastic housing. And if you imagine this is sticking out the gearbox and you don't get it exactly right and you screw it down, you'll actually lift up the metal rope and it's not connected. This is just spinning freely. This needs to slot inside here and be pushed down. Now, I think I've got it right. I could be wrong, but it is a bit awkward, but I think I've got it right, and I've now tightened it down. We're going to put this down just so the wheels are just off the ground. I'm going to put it in first gear, and I'm going to see if it moves up. If it moves up, that's what's happened. Either it's come loose naturally over time, which is a possibility, or someone has been at this and not put it together right. Or there's a third way, it's broke, but if it's broke, I don't know how it's broke. I don't know, but I think I got it. So we'll get this baby down, put her in gear, see what happens. Right, so do we still have the little stupid horn working? It sounds like it's dying, but it's working. Right, now the most important thing is, well, I suppose that is important, but was I right in what I was thinking? To be honest, I was expecting the cable to be broke. That's kind of common. The cable does, after a time, it snaps. Seen them a lot, and that's what I was kind of expecting, a broken cable. I don't know, we're going to find out in 2 seconds. Was it loose? I mean, it was loose, but it didn't seem loose enough to completely come out of the little cage. I think it's possibly been moved. Someone's done something with it and not put it back properly. I think, I don't know. Anyway, let's start this bad boy up and see. Oh, I think the battery's a bit dodgy on this. Put it in gear. I'm just going to put it in second gear. Wheels are off the lift, off the floor. There we go! Yes! Woohoo! That's it! It works! Lovely jubbly! There we go. Fixed, sorted, done. Job on. Right, so this is the proper test. There's brand new oil in the gearbox now, and let's see when I actually drive it if it moves. Look at that. There we go. Now I think when I did it with the drill it got to 80 mile an hour. This will never get to 80 mile an hour. There we go, sorted. Oh, the tracking's way off on this thing. Doesn't matter, it's working. I've done what I need to do. Lovely. Sorted.